Okay, so today we're doing a deep dive into
Yeah.
global tensions. It's getting a little dicey out there,
Yeah.
especially between the U.S. and Russia.
Right.
And we found this YouTube video. I mean, the title's a little much. It's called
Oh, really?
100% Proof Something Will Happen. Alert, WW3 martial law dollar collapse footage, 2017.mp3. I mean, come on.
A bit dramatic.
A little clickbaity, don't you think?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there are some interesting points in there
I bet.
that I think are worth exploring. So we're going to take a look
Okay.
and see what's what.
Yeah.
Is this really WWIII on the horizon? What evidence is there, and what does it all mean for you listening? Right? What should you be doing?
Right. It's easy to dismiss those kinds of sources, right?
Totally.
But sometimes even the most outlandish claims can raise some interesting questions.
Yeah.
And get people thinking about what's really going on.
Exactly. So one of the first things that jumps out in this video
Okay.
is this NATO operation. It's called
Okay.
Atlantic Resolve, you
Yeah.
know, where they're sending all these U.S. troops and tanks to Europe.
I've heard of this, yeah.
Yeah, to counter Russia, supposedly.
Right.
But, when the first batch of troops arrived in Germany, I mean, people were not happy.
Oh, really?
There were all these protests, some with signs that said, like, Army, go home. But then, like, at the same time, other people were, like, scared of new wars starting.
Right.
Because of the size of the whole thing,
It's interesting. It seems like there's a lot of fear and uncertainty surrounding, any kind of military action.
Absolutely. And it's not just a simple, yes or no, good or bad situation.
Right.
It's a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah, definitely.
And speaking of complicated,
Yeah.
the video then goes on to talk about China and how the People's Bank of China weakened the yuan against the dollar, like by almost a full percentage point,
Yeah.
which could mean billions of dollars going back to the U.S. Federal Reserve.
Oh.
So at the same time,
Yeah.
China is like ramping up their military drills in the South China Sea, sometimes like multiple times a week.
Wow.
What do you make of that?
Well, it seems like there's potentially a connection there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, devaluing the yuan, like that could have big implications for the U.S. economy. I mean, historically, countries have used currency manipulation like this, as a way to like get ahead in trade. So when you see that happening alongside all these military drills, it definitely makes you wonder, right?
Makes you wonder.
About what their game plan is.
Wait.
What are they really up to?
Likely.
Are they just reacting to what they see as threats? Or, are they trying to show everyone who's boss, becoming more aggressive?
Yeah, like they're making a play for power.
Exactly.
On multiple fronts at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Economic and military.
Yeah.
And then the video goes on to focus on this one specific thing that Obama did back in 2016. He ordered this huge amount of military equipment to be moved from Germany over to Poland and Eastern Europe, basically right towards Russia's border. The media reports didn't give exact numbers, but they kept saying things like it was like 900 wagons, which would be like a 9-mile long line of military vehicles.
Oh, my gosh. That's incredible.
It's just this insane amount of stuff moving. It really does kind of make you think of like Cold War strategies.
It does. It does.
Right? I mean, are we really seeing like a repeat of history here?
Right.
Or is this something totally different?
It's a good comparison.
Yeah.
The sheer scale of it and where it's all headed.
Yeah.
It definitely echoes those Cold War days.
Yeah.
But the thing is, today's world is just so much more complicated.
Yeah.
You've got new players like China, right, who are like really making their presence known. And warfare itself has changed so much. I mean, back then it was all about like, nuclear weapons and proxy wars, but now we've got cyber warfare and information warfare and all of this, like economic maneuvering. It's a whole new ballgame.
Yeah. And it's not just the troop movements, right? The video also talks about the bigger picture.
Okay.
Like how throughout 2016, there was this constant buildup of military stuff near Russia, talking warplanes, ships, all of it.
Yeah.
They even mentioned, NATO bases and the missile defense shield.
Right.
Which, for anyone who doesn't know, it's basically a system to shoot down incoming missiles.
Exactly, yeah.
But couldn't you say that all this is actually necessary to deter Russian aggression?
Yeah. That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
Historically, I mean, does this kind of buildup actually work?
Right.
Some people say, yeah, it does. A strong military presence scares off potential attackers.
Right.
But then others argue that it actually makes things worse, like it increases tension and makes conflict more likely.
Right.
So I think in this case, we really have to consider how Russia is seeing all of this.
Yeah.
Do they view it as a genuine defensive measure, like, we're just protecting ourselves?
Yeah.
Or are they taking it as a provocation?
Okay, so this is where the video takes a turn.
Okay.
It makes this pretty wild claim. It says that sometime in 2017, now remember, this video is from 2017, that the entire internet globally will be shut down for a full 24 hours.
Wow, okay.
They even say that it could be like some sort of direct provocation against Putin, and that people should start stocking up on supplies.
Well, I mean, it's important to be a little skeptical of predictions like this, right? I mean, shutting down the whole internet globally, I mean, that's a big technical challenge. But it's not, like, totally impossible.
Right.
I think the real question is who would actually have the ability to do this and why?
Right.
And what would happen if they did?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. No internet for a whole day.
Yeah.
That would completely disrupt communication businesses, everything.
Everything.
Daily life as we know it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something to think about.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't lose sleep over it.
Right. Keep a level head.
Exactly.
So looking back at all this.
Exactly.
I mean, what do you think is the most concerning development here? Are we really, like, teetering on the edge of war?
No.
Or is this just a bunch of posturing and saber rattling?
Well, the most worrying thing to me is just how much tension there is in all this military buildup, right? I mean, between the troops and the equipment and the things people are saying.
Yeah.
And the risk that, someone might miscalculate. It does feel like the danger of conflict is very real.
Right.
But I think it's also important to remember that diplomacy and talking to each other, those are still the most important tools we have to de-escalate the situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a messy situation. Unsettling, for sure.
Yeah.
But like you said earlier, even a video like this, with its crazy title and some of its over-the-top claims, it still makes you think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
It does.
It raises some important questions. So to our listeners, I want to leave you with this question. If you were suddenly put in charge of calming down this whole global situation, what would you do? It's a big question, I know.
Yeah.
But it's worth thinking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, while staying informed is super important, it's also important not to get carried away by fear-mongering.
Right.
Think critically about what you're hearing and seeing.
Yeah.
And don't panic.
That's great advice. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course.
On this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Stay curious, stay informed, and as always,
yes,
stay engaged.